He stared at me through the bars before I even realized I was holding my breath. The light from my flashlight fell across his face, and for a second, one terrible, honest second, he looked like a man. Then the skin slid back into hollows, the mouth opened in a way a human mouth should never open, and the chain around his neck rasped like an animal dragging metal across stone. I shouldn't have gone back to the place everyone in town called the prison. I know that. I told myself I was doing it for a story, for proof. Something to show when the bar stools filled and the old men swapped the same ghost stories. But the truth is simpler and fouler. Curiosity tastes like pennies in your mouth, and it was one of those nights where the rain seemed to want to wash the town clean, and the world didn't feel like it owed me anything. The gate was heavy, iron eaten with years of damp and neglect. My boots sank into a mud that clung, and every step threw up the smell of wet concrete, old blood, and something sweet and rot sour under it, like fruit left in a cellar too long. The flashlight beam shook. The corridor stretched ahead, lit haphazardly by a line of bulbs that blinked on and off like a slow, sleepy heart monitor. Shadows pooled and moved as if the walls breathed. My breath made a small, private noise. I counted it, loud in my own ears. 1, 2, 3. The prison had a way of swallowing sound. An odd drip, the distant clang of a loose hinge. Then, underneath that, a low, steady rhythm I couldn't place at first, like someone turning a crank far away. The old fluorescent lights hummed with a sound that set my teeth on edge and made the hairs at the back of my neck stand up. I found the cells by instinct more than plan. The door numbers were peeled paint and rust. Locks hung open like yawns. Inside one cell, a shape lay against the back wall, thin, impossibly pale, wrapped in rags that might once have been a jumpsuit. Its ribs showed through skin like a birdcage. Chains ran from its collar into the floor, thick links sunk into mortar, as if someone had bolted iron into the building's bones. When I raised the flashlight to his face, his eyes were empty in a way that broke me. Not blind, but absent, like two small rooms with the lights off forever. I told myself it was a trick of the dark. I told myself 100 small lies. The thing shifted. Its jaw worked, slow and grinding, and something wet and black glistened where lips should have been. A sound came then, soft, like someone whispering through a throat full of gravel. It wasn't in any language I knew. It wasn't a noise I could place on a map of human sounds. It was a greeting. I stepped back. The chain gave a small, deliberate creak. I thought I could leave. I thought once I turned my back on that cell and walked the corridor, the building would be nothing but brick and bad memories. I was wrong. The flashlight trembled in my hand as I moved deeper. The air grew colder, as if the prison exhaled when I did. Doors lined the hall like teeth. Every cell I passed held a shape or a suggestion of one. Twisted blankets, a curl of hair on the concrete, a footprint in a dust that looked too fresh for a place that had been shut for decades. Occasionally, a bulb would pop, and the darkness would rush in like a mouth closing. Then I heard it, a voice, faint and impossibly close, saying my name. Not shouted, not called, spoken as if someone leaned against the bars and remembered how to breathe. My fingers went numb. I stopped, and the sound stopped with me. When I moved again, it resumed, layered beneath the hum of the lights, patchy like tape over static. The voice wasn't the creature's whisper, it was mine. Or rather, it was a memory of my voice, the way I used to curse at my father in the garage when I was 15, the exact strain of my laughter when I messed up a line in a play. The sound scraped like iron on bone. I tried doors. Most were locked with heavy padlocks eaten by rust. One gave under my shoulder with a shriek that stuck in my teeth. Inside, chains coiled like sleeping snakes. The floor was scrawled with marks, tallies cut deep with something sharp, dates in smeared ink, names. I bent closer, my stomach slid. One set of initials belonged to someone I had drunk with last winter, the next to a girl I'd met in the town square. The last line had no initials. Instead, someone had scratched my full name into the concrete, repeated, the letters raw and wet-looking, as if they had been made yesterday. Cold sweat slicked my back. The idea that someone had been here recently was suddenly more terrifying than any monster. My flashlight caught a smear on the wall, brown, glossy. I tasted metal. I thought of leaving, of smashing the light and running through the rain, but the corridor had changed. It had become a crowd that leaned closer the more I tried to escape. Shadows pooled at the ends of halls and seemed to ripple when I blinked. Something moved in the dark ahead, not the slow, awkward roll of the thing in the cell, but a quick, deliberate shuffle. It sounded like bare feet on concrete. The voice came again, softer, less like memory and more like instruction. "Come back," it said. "We left the door open for you." I told myself to be rational. I told myself there were explanations, squatters, vandals, pranksters. But then the air shifted and a smell rose that punched every corner of my memory. The same sweet rot I'd smelled in the cell, mixed with cigarette smoke and the exact cologne my mother used to wear the night she left. The world tilted. When the flashlight swept the next cell, I nearly dropped it. Inside, someone had laid out photographs on the floor like a shrine. Polaroids, faces frozen in cheap flashes. I knelt and the light skimmed one picture. My face stared back at me, sleep creased and younger, eyes gone dark, mouth twisted into something that was almost a smile. I don't remember walking away from the photo. I only remember the corridor swallowing me, and behind me, a sound that was half laugh and half tear, and it said, impossibly, "You came back." The corridor closed like a mouth. Doors that had been limp and open earlier now banged shut of their own accord. The bulbs above me stuttered into a frantic staccato, throwing the hall into a jittery film of light and black. My chest tightened until breathing felt like an apology. Every voice in the prison answered me at once, not layered now, but stacked, a choir of small betrayals, friends, strangers, my own private shame. They called me by the things I had tried to forget. I stumbled into the room where the chains met mortar. The iron in the floor glowed, not with heat, but with the color of old blood. In the center of the room, a half-dozen collars jutted from the concrete, their links spread like the ribs of some great, rusted animal. My flashlight trembled and found him again, the thing from the first cell. Only this time, there were others, faces like empty plates propped against the wall, each with a photograph pinned to it. The pictures were cheap, Polaroids taken in dim light, birthdays, graduations, a dog on a porch. When the light hit them, the faces moved as if breathed on. One picture was of me. I didn't expect it to be there. I didn't expect the camera to have caught me smiling in some other life. In the photograph, my eyes were wrong. Too bright, too full, as if someone had polished them. The mouth was another mouth entirely, slightly off to the left, caught mid-grin like a coin tossed in the air. Below the picture, in letters gouged, shallow, and neat, someone had written a date that hadn't happened yet. Something cold wrapped around my wrist. Not claws, fingers, damp and paper-thin. The touch smelled like the attic in my grandmother's house in Old Penny's. I tore my arm back, and the skin made a small comic sound that did not belong to me. A voice breathed in my ear, intimate and absurdly tender. We were lonely. I tried to run, but the building no longer let me choose a direction. Each corridor folded into the next like a book that kept closing on itself. The faces out of the photographs watched me from the walls. The ones I recognized mouthed my mother's lullaby and my father's curse until I felt my knees go soft. The creature from the cell rocked forward, chains clinking like teeth. Its jaw unfolded, and from it spilled a slick black membrane that caught at my collarbone. Panic is a clean, sharp thing at first. It makes decisions simple. I decided to fight. I decided to pry at a collar and wrench a link free. The iron yielded with the same sound as a tearing throat. For a second, ecstasy, metal in my hand, the idea of leaving. Then the collar closed, not on the thing, but around my neck. The light flashed once, long enough for me to know what was happening. Where there had been my face was a map of bruises and old scars, places someone else had tried on. Where there had been mouths, new teeth were arranged like keys. The creature's hands were steady and careful. They worked like a tailor fitting a suit. They had been saving me a while. They told me, in 100 small voices, that the town liked to keep its histories tidy. They said the prison only borrowed what people left behind. They said I would fit better with a smile. I reached up with the hand that still felt like mine and touched skin that didn't answer back. I left wearing his face.
Subscribe to more story bars.